and followed him. My friends, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's good to look down at my homily and see page 1 in front of me. Last week we were over under the portico because the wind was so strong. I looked down at this point and page 1 had blown away. Anyway, God did not intend the homily to come last. It was too cold anyway. Someone sent me a conversation between Jesus and God this week. Jesus to God, where have you been these past 2 years? God, in Ireland. And Jesus, with a shocked look, says, with a pandemic raging these past 2 years, and you've been in Ireland? What were you doing? God leaned over and whispered, working from home, son. Working from home. It was the most accurate thing I read all week. I loved it. Thank you for sending it to me, the person who did. I want you to think about something for a minute. It's time to elect a world leader. And yours is the deciding vote. Here are the facts about the 3 leading candidates. Candidate A associates with some questionable politicians, consults with astrologers, is supposed to have had 2 mistresses, is disabled, chain smokes and is reputed to drink 8 to 10 martinis a day. Candidate B was kicked out of office twice, can sleep until noon, used opium at university, is an undiagnosed manic depressive, and drinks a bottle of whiskey every day. Candidate number 3, a decorated war hero, vegetarian, doesn't smoke or drink except for an occasional beer, and is thought to have never had an extramarital affair. Which would you choose? Well, candidate A is Franklin D. Roosevelt. Candidate B is Winston Churchill. And candidate C is Adolf Hitler. I knew you would all choose candidate C. Sometimes the best candidate on paper may not be the best leader in reality. Thank goodness Jesus didn't hire a management consultancy firm to help him recruit his earliest disciples. On paper, Peter, James, and John would not have gotten past expressing interest in the job. All our scripture readings this weekend have to do with God calling notable ministers in our Judeo-Christian tradition. Isaiah, in our first reading, is sharing his call to ministry. Paul, in the second reading, is informing the Corinthian Christians of his call. And Luke, in the Gospel, tells us about Jesus calling Peter, James, and John. Each call was different, but there were lots of similarities. Even the timelines, Isaiah lived 700 years before Jesus, an event that he predicted. Peter, James, and John obviously lived with Christ, and St. Paul the Apostle lived from about 5 AD till around 67 AD. Each was called by God, but none of them felt worthy. And the first thing they did was express their unworthiness. I am a man of unclean lips, Isaiah said. Paul informs the Corinthians of how he persecuted the Christians and is the least to be called an apostle, and yet God called him. And Peter recognized the hand of God in the large catch of fish, but advised Jesus not to be bothered with the likes of him. "Depart from me, Lord," he said, "for I'm a sinful man." The church gives us these call narratives so that we can reflect on our own individual call, which each of us has been given. One of the greatest obstacles for most of us to ministry is the feeling that we're unworthy, not altogether different from those in today's scriptures. Take Peter again for a moment. Peter judged himself unfit and unworthy to be in the presence of Jesus. His words asking Jesus to depart should far more accurately have been, "Lord, please stay with me, for I'm a sinful man." Jesus ignored Peter's remark because Jesus came for sinners, not for the saints among us. But the church has not been good in its dealing with sinners. With the pulpit-thumping, hellfire and open condemnation, sinners were left in no doubt that they did not belong. How far we have strayed from the teaching and the message of Jesus. The message that came across to many of them: "Depart from us, for you're a sinful person." And we all know many, many examples. Not our finest moment. Each of us, every single one of us, is called by God to minister. The majority of you have been ministering for many years, possibly without recognizing it. Ministering to your families, to co-workers, to friends, to neighbors. That's real ministry in its purest form. And thank you for that ministry. Sometimes we think that the Gospels demand a very different lifestyle from the one that we have. And at times it does, but often it doesn't. We know, for example, that following Jesus did not demand from Peter that he abandon his family. And we know that the disciples returned to their work of fishing a number of times in their lives with Jesus. For many, ministry is done for those closest to us. God presents the options for ministry to loved ones. We decide whether or not to take up the offer. And let me finish with a little something I've shared before. God said, "Go." And I said, "Who? Me?" And God said, "Yes, you." And I said, "But I'm not ready yet. And there's company coming. And I can't leave the kids. And you know that there's no one to take my place." And God said, "You're stalling." And the Lord said, "Go." And I said, "But I don't want to." And God said, "I didn't ask if you wanted to." And I said, "Listen, I'm not the sort of person to get involved in controversy. Besides, my family won't like it. And what will the neighbors think?" And God said, "Baloney." And a third time the Lord said, "Go." And I said, "Do I have to?" And God said, "Do you love me?" And I said, "Look, I'm scared that people are going to hate me and cut me up in little pieces. I can't take it all by myself." And God said, "Where do you think I'll be?" And the Lord said, "Go." And I sighed, "Here I am. Send me."